students of business and professional writing. Welcome to our Unit 6 lecture. And if it seems like I'm talking very loud, I am. That is because, excuse me, my air conditioner is on in the back and I'm trying to talk over it so that you hear me. I tried doing this with the air conditioner off, but it was, well, anyway. So in Unit 6 today, I'm going to talk to you about Part 1 of your formal report, which you will be writing this week, and touch a little bit on the discussion question, which asks what are some of the pieces you notice on the website you've chosen that need updating, and how do you think these issues would be resolved for a better user experience. So first, let's go to the more technical part of the lecture, which covers the introduction and background, the mode of analysis or methodology, and the analysis of data. So these are 3 sections of the report. These are in the body of the report. Now, as I go through each section, I'm going to tell you what it should consist of and explain it to you. I'm taking this straight from the textbook. So if you don't have the textbook, you can 100% rely on what I'm saying. These lectures are actually intended for students who don't have the textbook to provide a substitute. So we're going to start with the introduction, and if you want, you can call it introduction and background, because the introduction should serve to provide the reader with all of the necessary context the reader is going to need to understand the report, and then to also appreciate the data you present and the conclusions. So the introduction has 5 sections. If you want, you can break it up into subsections, or you can have a heading that's in bold face type to indicate that you're moving from one section to another. You don't have to do that, but what is important is that you clearly address everything that I'm asking you, or that the book is asking you to address in the introduction. So the first paragraph or the first section in the introduction should address how and why the report came to be written. How and why the report came to be written. So if you would like to create a hypothetical scenario in which, I'm going to borrow this from John. Let's say that you love reading and there's a bookstore in your hometown and you love the bookstore, and the bookstore has a website and you go to it, but you notice that the website could do a few things better. That could be your scenario, that you're taking a business and professional writing class, and the assignment asks you to analyze a website, and you could go on to discuss it from that angle. Or if you want to, as I was saying, create a hypothetical situation in which a business owner comes to you because you are a computer graphics specialist, or maybe you design websites. So your company has been, you can give the company a name, your company has been approached to revamp this website for let's say the bookstore, and you can present it that way. Those are the 2 different scenarios that come to my mind as far as how and why the report came to be written. But if you would like to create a different scenario, or if there is a different scenario, that's fine as well. Just make sure that it's presented clearly as how and why the report came to be written. The second section should address the scope of the problem or issue that the report addresses. So going back and using the example of the small town bookstore and its website, which does the job, but isn't really great, is a little lackluster, could be better. The scope of the problem. So what you're looking at is how many people are impacted by this issue. So in the case, again, of the small town bookstore's website, you could say that maybe the people in the town are impacted, and then also the owner of the bookstore and that owner's family. So maybe not a ton of people, but enough people so that if this website is redesigned, and if it's done well, it could change the life of the bookstore owner, and it could change the lives of the people in this town who frequent the bookstore, because maybe it will bring them together. They'll have an enhanced community life. They might begin to read more. So the scope of the problem is how many people, or if it goes beyond people, and there are institutions or there are others who are affected, you could address that. But the scope of the problem, or the issue, would be who is impacted by this and who stands to benefit from any changes that are made and from this project. Okay, so that's the scope. The third section, this is where you explain the methodology, or just the methods that you have chosen to tackle the issue. So I will give you an example, and this is going to sound a bit like the next section, and that's because it is similar. So the methodology, let's say that, sticking with the example of the bookstore, let's say that you wanted to create a survey to ask the people, the residents in the town, or the people who frequent the bookstore, if they use the website, and if they do, what has their experience been? Do they find that it's user-friendly? Does it make them want to come back and visit the bookstore more? Does it make them want to come back and use the website again? So let's say you create a survey, and you leave the survey at the bookstore, and maybe there's a table, and maybe you go there twice a week, and you sit there for 2 hours, and when people come in, you ask, excuse me, would you like to participate in this survey? And then maybe you also get a mailing list from the owner, and you send surveys out to that mailing list. So in the methodology section, you would just explain, let's say maybe you have other methods that you're going to use, such as visiting the websites of other bookstores. You could describe that here as well. But the survey, that's just one example. So in the methodology section, you are going to describe the various ways that you have chosen to tackle this issue. So it could be maybe a survey, and then if you go to other websites, you would describe what that yields. And then the fourth section is, why were you commissioned to write this report? So typically this section addresses the expertise that the writer has. Is there some expertise that you have? Are you, again, do you own a company that designs websites? I'm sorry, my cat is about to scratch something. Or are you a book lover and an avid reader, which would put you in a different position of expertise, where you can maybe speak more about your experience using the websites of different bookstores. But whatever your knowledge is, whatever it is that you bring to the table, you're going to include that and use it as the reason that you were commissioned to write the report. So when we started, I said that maybe you might create a hypothetical situation in which you own a company that designs websites. You could stick with the hypothetical situation in this question, or if you're using the example of you're taking a business and professional writing class and there's this bookstore in your hometown, you could stick with that also. And in that case, if you were going with the truth, why were you commissioned to write the report? What expertise do you bring to the table? In that case, if you're doing this report as yourself in a business and professional writing class, I would say what qualities do you have, or what experience do you have with websites, or with bookstore websites, or with books, that puts you in a unique or special position to do this research and to evaluate it. And then the last part of the introduction section is going to be, what is the significance of this report? So why does this matter? Going back to the example of the bookstore, let's say that we take the survey and we do comparisons to other websites, and we help this small town bookstore to really create a new website that is much better and provides a much better user experience, and it really increases traffic and sales. Why is that significant? Obviously, it could be significant for the business owner, the bookstore owner, because increased sales and profit. But how else is this beneficial or significant? Maybe it benefits the community and the people who shop at the bookstore in many different ways. You could also look at perhaps if the bookstore hosts a book club or any type of community events that could really transform the lives of the people in the town or people elsewhere. It's up to you, really. You can try to think outside the box if you want. This is all up to you. This is your report. You can do what you want with it, so be creative, have fun with it. So before I go on a tangent, let me just move to, and that's it for the introduction. And the next section we're looking at is, the book refers to it as the mode of analysis or methodology. I would advise you to choose a name. Which name do you prefer for this section, and stick with it. If you prefer to call it the mode of analysis, that's fine. If you prefer to call it methodology, that's fine. So in this section, what you're going to do is describe how you did your research. So remember when I just said shortly, a little while ago, I said that, this part of the introduction is going to sound similar to the next section of the report, the mode of analysis. Okay, so this is, I guess, a more detailed, more drawn out version of the methodology section in the introduction. You're going to describe in greater detail how you did the research. And I gave you an example of this a few minutes ago, so I don't want to be redundant. But that's what so remember when I said let's say you created a survey, and maybe you leave the survey at a table in the bookstore, and 2 days a week you go and you sit there and you ask the people who come in if they would please take the survey, and you get the mailing list. So that would be one of the methods that you've chosen to tackle this issue. In the mode of analysis section, you're going to describe that in greater detail. And then let's say, again, you go and you look at other websites of bookstores. You look at the Barnes & Noble website. You look at another small town bookstore's website. You want to describe that here, okay? Let's see. You would also explain, when I said in greater detail, how many surveys were taken in total. How you could provide examples of some of the questions that you asked in the survey, or you could state the gist of the survey. So that's what I mean when I say go into greater detail in this section than in the portion of the intro that has this information. Okay, so now we're in the third section, and the last section you're going to be doing this week, and that is the analysis of data. This is most likely going to be the longest section in your report. Now let me just repeat this, because every year I'll get a few reports where this section is a paragraph. No, this should be the longest section of your report. So this is where you present the results of your research, and then to support your research and your analysis, you're going to include any tables, any graphs, any charts, any pictures, any photos. Any supplementary or supporting materials are going to be here, unless it starts to feel like maybe the detail. Let me give you an example. You would not include the survey here. That would be a bit much. But if you wanted to create a table that tabulate the results of the survey, that is what you would put in the analysis of data. The survey itself, if you wanted to use that in this report, that would go in the appendices section, which we're not dealing with this week, but that's where that will go. So again, the analysis of data, this is where you present the results of your research. So again, if your research is a survey that you created, and then you visiting various other bookstore websites and comparing them and analyzing the different websites, and let's say that you maybe also go into Academic Search Premier and do a little bit of research on the impact of websites on business sales. that would be a nice third leg of the report to have. You could also discuss that, the research that you've read, and how does that add to your ability to analyze this? How does it enhance the survey that you've done and the firsthand analysis that you're doing of these websites? So you would discuss that here, and it is also likely or advisable that this section of your report, again, the analysis of data, that it has subsections, and all that means is that you create the subsections by having different headings, or just dividing this section of the report into several parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, however you want to do it, but it is recommended that you have different parts within it, that you divide it up. And that is it for those are the 3 parts that you're supposed to write this week, and I hope that was helpful to you. That is in the textbook in chapter 18. And I don't want to babble, so if you have any questions, you all know my email address. It's mfiore, F-I-O-R-E, @kane.edu, and then there is also the message system within our class's Canvas page. But again, I hope this is helpful to you. If you have any questions, please either email me or use the messaging system. And if there's anything you would like me to discuss in greater detail, that's something you could also communicate with me and let me know. And if I think it will be helpful to the whole class, I will comment on it and post it as a lecture. So anyway, thank you. I look forward to reading your reports, and I hope you have fun working on them. Bye.